Like an image straight from hell, flames climbed the tallest trees, towering over homes. It's suspected the fire began in bushland at Peregian Springs. Within minutes, police were evacuating people from the area behind Coles. But no one could imagine the nightmare to come.
It's a dangerous situation.
The flames jumped the Sunshine motorway, heading straight for Coolum State High School.
250 to 300 metres to the north of the school property.
From there, the blaze picked up pace and roared north, pushed on by 50-kilometre-an-hour winds.
It was as fast as we could keep up with it. Basically, the ember attack was moving over.
Peregian Beach residents were told to get out.
This is the police. Everyone needs to evacuate now on David Lowe Way.
On David Lowe Way, a firestorm showered homes with embers from the burning bushland. A petrol station in the firing line was saved. A family home on nearby Plover Street wasn't so lucky. It was the only home to be destroyed. Determined crews saved hundreds of others directly in the line of fire. Firefighters stood their ground. Huge flames licked at the backyards of empty houses. Residents had evacuated, leaving their life's belongings to firefighters and fate. Police declared the Peregian Springs and Beach areas an emergency zone. 95 QFES crews answered the call from across southeast Queensland, as well as 38 police units. More than 24 hours later, the fire shows no sign of relenting, but neither do our emergency crews. Sophie Tetzlaff, 7 News.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. More than happy to answer any of your questions. My name is Rob Frey. I belong to Queensland Fire and Emergency Services Fire Rescue. I'm the officer in charge of the Noosa Heads Fire Station, and I've been there for quite a while. I've certainly been around the Sunshine Coast and the stations around the Sunshine Coast for quite a while, and have experienced everything this place has to offer for the last 32 odd years. What I'd like to talk to you about today is resilience and some of the work that an urban fire rescue officers do. First and foremost, we work with our brothers in arms and sisters in arms in the Rural Fire Service when we're dealing with bushfires. We also take care of any type of structural fires, any type of hazardous materials spills, any type of rescue. Regretfully, the busiest part of our work, even in bushfire season, is road crash rescue. And then once we start moving out of the bushfire season, we go into the severe weather type season. We're dealing with a lot of swift water type rescue. So we're responsible for above and below ground rescue as well. In our day-to-day, we support our great paramedics out there in the ambulance service, and of course the police service. We also work in hand with the State Emergency Service as well. One of my duties also is to represent at a state level at the Local Disaster Management Group, where I have the pleasure of working with the Mayor and a great team of disaster coordinators there that are trained in an emergency to stand up and do some of the things that, although the firefighters are on the front line fighting the fire, there's a lot of incredibly good work that goes on in the background in our civilian partners to get things going. We are in our bushfire season at the moment, and because of weather conditions, that can finish at the end of December, or it could continue to go through till February. What we do have as our ally up here is humidity, and once the humidity starts to come in here, we're semi-tropical, the rain starts to come, we won't have those dry conditions. Up until a couple of days ago, around September, that sort of area, that's about as low as our humidity gets here, which then gives the chance we've got a lot of fuel that's burnt because we didn't particularly have a big bushfire season last year. We've had a lot of fuel on the ground. That then dries out. We have some heat in the ground, and we have our winds, particularly our westerly winds, which are dangerous for us, and that kicks off the bushfire season, as we've seen, particularly in the 2019, 2020, that conditions that should normally subside, say in the night, didn't. So we've certainly had our hands full. We've been very lucky this year that we haven't had significant campaign fires within the Noosa Shire, but there certainly has been many active fires in the state of Queensland, of which the Rural Fire Service in particular and the Fire Rescue Service have gone out to support other areas, out west, Toowoomba Way, north. We had a reasonable fire get going in just off Touchagoy Road. That went into the Gympie Shire Council, so we weren't too concerned about that until it came into the Noosa Shire Council, but we still sent plenty of resources from this part of the world to tackle that. What I talked about with cyclones and floods and all of those other disasters that we're dealing with, sometimes we have a bit of time, unless it's a particularly violent cell or something like that. We don't necessarily have time in a bushfire if it kicks off in a specific area, particularly if it's in the urban type of environment, such as Peregian a couple of years ago. So we encourage now, we have a reactive role, obviously put water on fires as an example, but in a proactive role, we're really actively seeking that people that live in this community become as resilient as they can. Understanding now, and one of the things that came out of the Peregian fires were, hey, we lived in a beach community. We never thought we'd be impacted by a fire such as down in Victoria or something like that. And that really kept a few people off guard. As we saw, it can raise its ugly head at any time, and we need you to sort of do your part, assist us to help you to make sure that you are as vigilant and as ready to go as you can in the various times of the season that we have to. So, for example, in the middle of winter, you don't particularly have to be too worried about bushfire season, but this time of the year, up until the last rain that we've just had, yeah, you need to go, wow, there's some fires burning around the state. It's a really hot, dry, windy day. Do I need to get myself prepared? You know, take it upon yourself now to see where your neighbours are. You know, if you're going to go somewhere, tell someone. And what we absolutely try to push is if you choose, if a bushfire starts to come in your area and you know that it's in your area, we ask you to leave early if you're not prepared, and only stay and defend if you are 100% prepared. I'm more than happy to go into that. But that's by having a plan, understanding that, first of all, knowing that, well, this is a really hot, dry day, don't rely on some warnings. We have done significant work at a state and national and Australasian level to improve warning systems for you on this day, but it starts with you actually understanding, well, there's fires everywhere in the state, it's tinder dry, a fire could kick off. Have I got things organised? Okay? There is three warnings that when they do start communicating to you, we need you to take adherent. One of them is an advice warning. So you will get that via the information highway. The disaster dashboard on the Noosa Council is a great app to have on your phone. The Rural Fire Service website is especially good to have that. The Queensland Fire and Emergency website, Channel ABC radios, all of those things can give you an update of where you are. But once you get that advice message, that's just telling you there is a fire somewhere around you. Nothing to be worried about, just to give you some advice. Just know that there's a fire going on in this area, okay? If it started to get of concern and it started to move, that would be upgraded to a watch and act, thank you. A watch and act. I knew I was going to forget something. And that is exactly that. Take some serious steps now to actually watch what that fire is doing, where it is going, what way it's heading, and act. And that is, if you aren't confident enough and you have somewhere to go, get yourself out of Dodge. Have your plan, take some essential items and make sure that you leave and leave early. When you are watching and acting, then if you choose to stay, then enact your plan again. Well, we might send the kids and the wife, and then I've got my brother that's going to come down from Gympie to help me, and we're going to stay and defend. To do that, you need to have your property in such a way that you can defend it. Okay, so things such as having access for a yellow truck or a red truck to get into your property to help you defend, and making sure that that's maintained. Making sure that on those days, can I get out? Can I put my car in a specific place that if things started to happen, I can get out? Is it full of fuel? You know, how are my leaves in the gutters? Can I have a hose that can go around my house? And all of those sorts of things. Making sure that I have a case. Now, certainly don't fill the garage like my wife did in the 2019 bushfires, where when I finished the fires here, I couldn't even get in my garage because she'd moved everything in there. No. Have a succinct case. Things such as your personal belongings, your passports, your papers, some photographs, and some changing of clothing, for example. Don't wait until the last minute to have that, okay? And then make sure that you are prepared for it and then act on that advice. What we don't want you to be is in situ still, not prepared when the emergency warning comes in. And that emergency warning basically means, you know, your life could be in immediate danger. What we don't want is everyone to go, I'll hold out, I'll hold out, I'll hold out. Oh, crikey, now I've got to go. That clogs up the roads. It doesn't allow fire engines to come in and support people to go through. That's when we nearly, and you will get a feeling based on the information that we've got available to you to make that decision. There is a great book that I'm sure the Mayor will talk about. It's an emergency action guide that is it's a terrific piece of information. But there's also the websites that I've mentioned to you for that constant updating information. But before any of that happens, just get a little bit vigilant. Know where your neighbours are. And if you are going to go, tell them where you're going and just go, well, it's a pretty hot day at the moment. The next couple of weeks are going to be pretty bad. What do I have to do? I really urge you to just, if you have 5 or 10 minutes in the next couple of days, explore some of those information sites that I've suggested to you today. That booklet will have all of those sites. So all you've got to do is type into Google QFES or rural fire, and the websites will come up, and it'll show you what to prepare in your plan, and some really, really good information, every question that you want to know. There's also sites where fires are and so on and so forth. You're talking about the tourists or the people the tourists that are coming here? Yeah. Yeah, okay. So again, the same information is available to those people. For them to access, again taking upon themselves, particularly if they're holidaying around in this area. We have a lot of international tourists in this area too that call into the fire station and ask those exact questions. But then again, just getting it out there to them to make sure that they are aware of it, and then obviously if they're not aware of it or if they're caught by surprise, making sure that they have the information if there is a fire in their area and telling them where to go. The one road in, one road out is a very, very common question that gets asked, and if it was up to me, I would have 20 roads in and out of every place. But we don't have any control over that. The legislation shows that they don't have any control over that. That's why we push this message to go and to be aware and to take on the responsibility of, wow, this is a really bad bushfire day and I live in an estate that has one road in, one road out. What am I going to do? Where am I at? Get onto those information sites to go, okay, what's going to happen if a bushfire starts? Similar to Peregian that was heading there. That was my main priority actually in 2019 fires, was what was going on there. We, with our command and control and our resources, would address that very, very quickly. What we continue to push in a proactive way is to make sure that, to identify that, wow, my parents or my daughter lives in an estate such as those. On this day, are they cool? Are they okay? Do they have a place to go, and do they want to stay in that area at that time, or to go early, or to stay and defend? Once they start getting some advice messaging, then it's imperative that they make that decision. From where I sit, they're reticulated supplies, so there is enough water for all fire services to stay and fight. There's a coordinated effort to protect, to evacuate, but those sorts of things take time. As you saw in the Peregian fires, at the height of the Peregian fires during the night, we had 115 fire engines on site of Rural Fire Service Queensland and Fire Rescue. They didn't automatically appear. But we would obviously, in our protocols, we would look at what is the priority and see what our alternatives are and take action from there. But just the one road in, one road out, we can't control those. There's a lot of retirement villages, for example. Some have got 2 roads out, some have got 3 roads in, one's got 1 road in. We don't have a requirement on that. It's about identifying that that is where you have chosen to live, and now to be a little bit resilient, to work out at certain times of the year, based on the risk, what am I going to do about it, you know? Does that answer your question, hopefully? A little bit?
Cool. G'day guys, my name is Duncan Hall-Brown. I'm the first officer at Veredale Rural Fire Brigade. For those of you, everyone knows where Veredale Rural Fire Brigade is located? Yeah? Cool, yep, good, excellent. I don't need to go into that part. Okay, but who are we? Okay, so essentially Veredale, the Rural Fire Brigade is a part of QFES, okay? And QFES is comprised of 2,200 permanent firefighters, such as Rob. So they're the guys that do the daily work, pulling people out of cars, going into buildings, you know, and the drudgery of firefighting or urban firefighting. There's also auxiliary firefighters that essentially are less qualified than the urbans, and they are more along the lines of town firefighters. They're situated in places like Pomona, and they're all throughout the state. And then there's 28,000 rural firefighters throughout the state, of which 98% are volunteers. About 2% are in down at Kedron and also at regional commands and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, but the rest of us are volunteers. We don't get paid a cent for doing what we do. There are 1,400 brigades throughout Queensland, and basically the Rural Fire Service services about 93% of the state's surface area. So that's quite a large proportion of the state, and that's reflected in our numbers as well, you know, because we need that number of volunteers to be able to do that. Who is the Veredale Rural Fire Brigade? Okay, well, there's some photos of us there doing our thing. But we're part of the North Maroochy group, in which there are 9 different brigades. So that goes from basically Maroochy River out to Kenilworth, as far east as Doonan. We've got Valdora, places like Starlight, which many people have never even heard of, and obviously ourselves at Veredale. In our brigade itself, we've got 23 active members, or 23 members, of which 1 is a community educator. We've got 4 support members. They're great, the support members. They're basically firefighters that are now, we've had to say to them, sorry guys, you're too old to go on the fire ground, because they're troopers and they've been there forever, and there's no way that you'd ever tell them they can't be in the brigade, because they might lop your head off when you're sleeping. But no, they're fantastic. They do all kinds of stuff for us, from, you know, admin to making sure, packing our lunch boxes when we go out, making sure the snack box in the truck's full all the time, and also that there's a good amount of golds in the fridge for when we come back from a job. So we love our support members. We have 16 active firefighters, of which I'd like to shout out to Craig in the back there. Stick your hand up, Craig. He's our training officer, our 3rd officer as well at the brigade. And we have currently 2 trainees at the brigade. We have 3 vehicles, 1 medium attack, which is our big girl, which you can see just down here. She has 1,850 litres in her. And we have 2 small attacks, or light attacks, which are just essentially 4-wheel drives with a demountable on the back of it, or a water cube on the back, which each have about 600 litres. Okay, so what do we do as a rural fire brigade? Obviously, our primary focus is to prepare Veredale for and protect Veredale from a major fire event. And that also includes the regional surrounding areas. So not just Veredale, but all the areas in our group. Because if there is a serious fire in our group area, then we all get called up no matter what's going on. How is this done? So we do it by conducting hazard reduction burns in our area and neighbouring areas. And this is done in conjunction with other brigades in the area. We also work with as we like to call them, Sparks and Wildfire, but otherwise known as Queensland Parks and Wildlife Service. And also a lot of council work as well. So we work with the Sunshine Coast Council and the Noosa Council to do hazard reduction burns in their park areas as well. We also conduct a lot of community education, and you can see down from this bottom photo just here, and there we go, there we can see Craig again at the back there, but that was done just on Sunday. We had an open station to inform people in the area about the upcoming El Nino season and the risks involved with that, and also to ensure that people know that there's a point of contact that they can come to and speak to and raise any concerns that they have about fire mitigation on their properties or fire mitigation in the area. So that's a big part of our responsibility as well. We also conduct property inspections, so people that live on acreage. Does anyone here live on acreage in the area? No? Good. I'm not going to be getting any phone calls tomorrow. That's great. So we do a lot of basically going onto properties, and people will ask us advice from everything from how do we conduct a hazard reduction burn here to where do I need to put all this wood that I'm cutting out of if I'm clearing some area, where do I need to put that so that we can conduct a safe stack burn, and to what do I need to do to my house and the surrounds to ensure it's bushfire safe. So we do a lot of community engagement in that respect. And obviously we respond to wildfires. Additionally to responding to wildfires, we provide what's known as strike teams. So recently we've had members go out to Carnarvon. So Craig once again went out to Carnarvon only a couple of weeks ago, spent 4 days out there fighting fires. We've had other missions in recent times to the Southwest Downs. I haven't been on one for a while. It was 2020, my last one, which was to Fraser Island. But we will go far afield, and sometimes also interstate and internationally. We had one of the members from our, actually two of the members from our group area go to Canada recently. So you guys would have heard about the Canadian wildfires throughout the winter. So we had two rural firefighters from the North Maroochy group go to Canada and fight the fires in really remote North Canada, which was quite amazing because they were fighting fires that were burning actively beneath the permafrost, which I think you can imagine presents a real difficulty. So they were literally breaking through ice to put fires out. So, which thank God is not a problem that we have around here. In addition to that, we also do a lot of, in the wetter times, assisting with flood cleanup and flood response. So assisting the SES with sandbagging around Coolum. We have a good relationship with the guys at Coolum, and they help us out when they can, and we help them out when we can. So we have a good relationship with those in the area, including obviously our urban firefighters, so which do most of the heavy lifting, obviously for the region. I'll leave the questions till the end, but that's our little presentation. But feel free to ask me any questions about rural firefighting once the opportunity arises. Thanks.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's lovely to be with you, and I want to really thank Bob because he is a complete superstar. I have the absolute privilege of sitting on the local disaster management group meeting. I actually chair it, the mayor chairs it, and Rob is the best of the best. And I've said it 100 times, but I'll say it again. We're incredibly lucky here because we are surrounded by such safe hands. We've got Queensland Police, we've got Queensland Ambulance, we've got the Rural Fire Service, the SES, and none more so than QFES. So when we sit in those disaster management group meetings, and we saw it in the floods, and I'll say it again, we had no loss of life or limb very much because of our emergency services. So Rob and Duncan and Craig, thank you for all the work that you do, because you are at the front line. In times of trouble, we're all running out, you guys are running in, so I appreciate it. I'm here just to tell you a little bit about what we as a council are doing in the fire management mitigation space. Coming into 2019, the election, it was a big platform of all of ours, but especially mine, because we were coming off the back of those incredible bushfires. And as Rob said, we hadn't seen anything like that in a coastal town. So it was unprecedented, and the community were frightened, and there was calling for more action. So in the last 4 years, Noosa Council has increased its fire mitigation and management budget by over 100%. We continue to work very closely with all our emergency services and Rob and all the teams. We now have in council a dedicated fire management officer, and we have 16 nationally accredited staff who are accredited in fire training. Over the past 2 years, my stats are saying we've conducted controlled burns of over 400 hectares of our bushland to slow that spread, and so if we do have a fire, we're well prepared. As Rob said, there is still, because we have a lot of fossil fuel on the ground, we have a large amount of fuel load, so we are doing increased culling in that respect as well. We also now have, and I like the word light attack vehicles, we now have an additional 2, Noosa Council's purchased 2 more Land Cruisers, which are fit for purpose, to take our fleet up to 5. Our Fire Tech program, and it's just down the road here at Peregian Digital Hub, Fire Tech Connect is a world first, and they're trialling artificial intelligence and ultra high definition cameras to detect, monitor and fight bushfires. It's quite remarkable, and I've sat in on some of their seminars and presentations where Chris Bowden, and we've had people from all around Australia, and we've had people zoom in from across the world. So that what we are doing in that artificial intelligence space and that technology with fire management and mitigation is quite unbelievable. As Rob said, resilience is the main thing. We've just put out that emergency action guide. It's our third action guide I think we've put up, and it's our most updated. We just launched it last week. And the 3 big things that come from that are we can be as prepared as a council as we can, and we can all be working on the same page, but we need community input, we need community buy-in. So it's know your risk, have an action plan, and have an evacuation kit if you think you are at risk. I remember my mother got the call, the text message, get ready to evacuate. She's at Noosa Springs. And you talk about, Penny, one way in and one way out. Well, Noosa Springs is like that. I remember she gave me the call and she said, I've got this text message, I'm getting ready. They said, get ready, but I can't reach my grandmother's, who's now passed away. I can't reach her wedding picture. It's too high for me. My mum's really short. She said, I can't get it down. And my dad was away. So I said, look, if you get the call, I'll come and get it for you. But thankfully, she didn't actually have to evacuate. But just have those things, passports, medications, phone charges. So if you're going to be out of the house for 3 or 4 days, what do you need? That's, if you've got a young child, nappies. My mother has, heart medication every day. She needs medicine. So all those kinds of things are in that, just front of mind. So if you do get that text message, you're well planned and you've got your kit ready to go. We have, I think, with our emergency services, Noosa Council has visited in that disaster preparedness and disaster resilience. We visited over 2,700 students. So we visited a lot of the primary schools to get them engaged, because what happens is they go home and they say, hey, Mum and Dad, have you cleared this and have you done that? I know my kids say to me all the time, Mum, you're leaving the tap on too long, and that's the wrong waste bin for that. They're the ones who often educate us. So by having our children be educated, similarly, we've had a huge amount of forums with aged care. So we've gone into aged care facilities who are our most vulnerable and at risk because it takes so long to move them out. We've gone into them and done a lot of resilience training with aged care providers, and also gone into those sectors. So that is all part of our resilience program, which has been, we have a wonderful man called Ian Williams who has been a dedicated resilience officer for Noosa Council, and he has done so much work. We were out at Stantopper Park about a month ago with all our emergency services launching Get Ready Week. We've been at, as I said, we had one at Peppers. We've had one at Small Business Forum at the J to get our small businesses ready. So we've gone right across the Shire in regard to trying to get our communities prepared, and also they've had a number of forums across various areas. Now our sim table is amazing, and I'd really encourage you, if you're ever down at the Pigeon Digital Hub, have a look at it. It's this portable digital sand table that provides customised stimulations and modelling for bushfires. It's quite amazing, and again, presentations for small groups are available. So if you have some time, I'd encourage you to book in for that, because again, it's one of the tools that we're leading or we're using in that bushfire preparedness and mitigation. So I think this is great to have, and it's great to have it, even if, as Rob said, you've got 5 minutes, flick through it, have a look at it. And also our, as Rob said, our disaster dashboard at Council is fantastic. It's a one-stop shop. So all that information is available through that website or that dashboard. And also in times of trouble or in times of disaster, that dashboard, it will send you alerts, but you can, if you sign up, like what roads are closing and what information you need to have that communication and education. So that's what we're doing and have done over the last sort of 3 and a bit years in fire mitigation. I'm really proud of where we are with this. We've done from where we've come from to where we are now. It's a huge significant impact on for the better for our community, and we saw it. As I said, we haven't had the bushfires in the last 4 years. We had the floods, but we are very well prepared if we do have any oncoming disasters. Thank you. Thanks.